when I read all the background and personal justice denied and all the background on the internment is when it really hit home to me how massive, how absolutely huge undertaking and detrimental it was to everyone involved. This whole internment was.
On August 10, 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. This legislation called for a governmental apology to Japanese Americans incarcerated in American concentration camps during World War II, along with reparations payments of $20,000 to all surviving internees. This legislation also created the Office of Redress Administration within the Department of Justice, charged with identifying and administering payments to eligible internees. Robert K. Bratt was appointed the first director of the ORA.
It affected people tremendously, obviously from the internment and from what they had to give up and all. And so at that point it really kind of brought home why I was so appreciative of the fact that I had an opportunity to work on this program to help do a very, very small correct a right, that something that was just so big in everyone's mind and just a very horrible incident that occurred.
Bob had been supportive through the entire thing. He was encouraging and very eager to get a team out here to make sure that we had all the right documentation for all the families. He did a number of workshops on a number of different islands and was available for questions all the time. A good friend to all of us in this whole process.
In Hawaii, fewer than 2,500 Japanese Americans had been interned. Survivors among this group were known to be eligible for reparations. However, in the spring of 1991, Dr. Donald Kanemaru contacted the Honolulu chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League, asking about his family's eligibility for reparations. He explained that his family, along with other Japanese American families located in Lualualei Valley in Leeward, Oahu, were ordered off their land by military authorities but were not interned. Prohibited from staying in their homes at night, they were allowed to farm during the day under armed guard. Other similar cases in other locations soon emerged.
We lived in fear every day. Every day we lived in fear. And one day they came and said that I don't know how soon it was after that we were told that we have to evacuate before the sundown.
We spent 10 years working on redress for all Japanese Americans that were involved in the internment, but particularly when we found the smoking gun through the help of Pam Funai.
JCL Honolulu had asked me to keep an eye out for any documentation that would help prove that these Japanese Americans were excluded from their land by the military or the U.S. government. And so once those documents were identified, Bob Bratt was the one who evaluated and sent out one of his ORA lawyers to take a look at our documents and decide if they were indeed the proof, which was the case.
Unforced, JACL kind of all rallied around that and really focused in on trying to get redress for them and get them included. And without Bob Bratt's help and that assistance, I don't think we would have been as successful.
In early 1992, the Lualualei group was deemed eligible for reparations payments. Other positive responses followed. In all, some 1,500 Japanese American evacuees from Hawaii received reparations payments, in addition to over 1,000 internees.
And during the war, we were called Japs all the time. So very truly, I did not trust white men. I was afraid of them. So when I saw Mr. Bratt for the first time, I didn't know whether I should pour my story out to him or just hold back and to hear what he has to say. But as the time went on, this guy sounded sincere. he really felt, I felt very comfortable with him. So the hate that I had carried all this time, wow, this guy is really going to help.
I'll never forget, we were in the Great Hall in Department of Justice when we handed out the first checks, and the Attorney General kneeled down and presented the 90-year-old recipient with that check. And I think that kind of, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest that day as during that event. And when we went all across the country, including here in Hawaii, and gave out the first checks, it repeated itself. That's something that very few people are able to appreciate and to see the hard work that most of us do this day to come to such fruition as it did.
He really understood the injustice of wartime incarceration against the Japanese Americans. He listened to the internees and he listened to the evacuees. They cried with him, and he just really responded with compassion and resolve to just right this wrong. And we are so forever grateful for him. I really think that we owe Bob a debt of gratitude for his work on redress.